As a white belt in Jiu Jitsu, will you learn more from rolling with a coloured belt, maybe a purple belt, brown belt, black belt, or will you learn more from rolling with a fellow white belt, someone who's equally as new to the game? That was a question that was asked in the comments last week by a chap called Rodell. Apologies if I've mispronounced your name. Very interesting question. I did answer the question in the comments, but I wanted to address it a little bit further in this video because I think it is an interesting question, and I think some of you guys might be interested in the answer, hopefully. My initial thought is you should be rolling with as many different people as you can from all different experience levels, whether it's someone who's a year into the jiu-jitsu, someone who's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. You should be rolling with all different levels of practitioners, all different belt colors, and brand new people. I know I certainly learned something from rolling with everyone, no matter if it's a fellow black belt, a brown belt, purple belt, blue belt, white belt. I will hopefully learn or take something from that role. And you might think, well, what can a black belt learn from a white belt? Well, it might be that they do something that I've never seen before, and I think that's interesting. How have they done that? It might be they've done it by accident, or it might be that they picked it up somewhere else. Or it might be something that I learn about my own game, something I think I could do a little bit better, a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more efficient maybe. So hopefully I will learn something from every role. These days, some of these guys, some blue belts these days are much more advanced than even brown belts were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Even 5 years ago, the game has evolved that much, and people are going all around the world to train at all sorts of different gyms and with different coaches and competitors. And, there's so much information online, whether it's BJJ Fanatics or whether it's YouTube, God forbid, or, whatever it is, watching a competition, watching the favorite competitor, people are consuming knowledge and information all the time. So these blue belts in my gym who I think, Jesus, what are they doing? I don't even know what they're doing half the time. They're that much more advanced than blue belts were 5 years ago, and even purple belts and brown belts were 10, 15 years ago, in my opinion. So yeah, we can all learn something from everyone, no matter what belt level they're at. So that should be your first thing. You should be rolling with as many different experience levels as you can. You should be rolling with as many different body types as you can, people of different ages, different sex, whatever it is. You should be rolling with as many different people as you can. You will get far more comfortable rolling if you mix it up and roll with different people. People are unpredictable. They will do things that you don't expect. So, getting all of those different experiences is going to be just fantastic for your game. With regards, will you get more from rolling with a coloured belt or a white belt? 100% you're going to get more from rolling with a coloured belt, assuming that colour belt's not a dick. And it happens. You might get a purple belt who just likes to smash white belts all the time. It happens. I've seen it. I wouldn't say I've seen it a lot, because hopefully it is, only a very small minority, but it happens. But for the most part, you're going to get more from rolling with a purple belt, a brown belt, a black belt. They're going to hopefully help you through that role. That's not to say that they're going to go easy all the time. Sometimes they're going to give you a hard time and challenge you, hopefully. They're not just going to let you do anything you want, but for the most part, they will help you, or hopefully help you through whatever it is you're trying to do. If you're trying to pass guard, if you're trying to maintain mount, if you're trying to maintain back, if you're trying to finish a choke, whatever it is, hopefully that purple belt, brown belt, black belt will help you through that process. But like I say, sometimes, for whatever reason, sometimes those more experienced people have got a chip on the shoulder and they can be dicks. Equally, it might be that you're being a dick, so you need to step back and just assess, am I being a dick here? What do I mean by that? Well, sometimes if let's say you've passed the guard of a black belt, I would think 9 times out of 10, 95 times out of 100, whatever it is, I would think most of those times you pass the guard of a black belt, it's because they've allowed you to do that. It's because they've allowed you to get to side control, because they want to see what you do when you get to side control, and they want to help you through that process. If you get to side control and then you then start being a dick by trying to rip on a Americana or a Kimura, or you're trying to your hardest to get to mount, and then once you get to mount, you're trying your hardest to, you know, finish a collar choke or whatever it is, you better believe that that higher belt is then going to give you a hard time. They're going to smash you, and they're going to smash you repeatedly until you learn not to be a dick. Itchy nose. So you need to ask yourself, am I being a dick here? Acknowledge, understand, and I know it's difficult for a lot of people, no disrespect, but it's difficult for a lot of people to understand that when you've got that advantageous position or you've moved to a dominant position, that it's because you've been allowed to get there. I know a lot of people are quite delusional and think that they've managed to do that themselves. Acknowledge that you are being assisted and you are being helped, so don't be a dick once you get there. You know, calm yourself down and try and work the technique and try and work it slowly and methodically and get it right. Don't try and just rip it on because you think you're going to win a gold medal for tapping a black belt. That's not how it works. So if the person you're rolling with isn't a dick and you're not being a dick, then you will 100% learn much, much more from rolling with that colored belt than you ever will from rolling with someone who's a day one white belt like you are. That's not to say that you won't learn something though from rolling with a white belt. You will 100%, using percentages a lot, but you will 100% learn something by rolling with someone who's as brand new as you are. When two white belts roll together, it is the most volatile thing you can witness. It's like an unstoppable force and an immovable object, and they just both, boom, go at it. Especially if they're of equal age and equal size, it's just like full-on war. What could you learn from that? Well, the more you do it, the more hopefully you will learn to start bringing fundamentals into those roles. So you'll start learning to stay safe, keep your elbows in, protect your neck, use your hips, bridge, shrimp, use frames, breathe properly. You'll start hopefully learning to utilize those fundamental movements and techniques as part of that role. And hopefully you will start being more efficient than the other person is. That's what you will learn from rolling with a fellow white belt. That's not to say you won't learn those things rolling with higher belts. Of course you will. But for the most part, they're not going to be giving you 100%. You will always get 100% rolling with a fellow white belt. It just goes with the territory. And I you know, obviously I've been there myself. I've been through that white belt stage and that blue belt stage, and I know what it's like to be in constant wars day in, day out with people who are your peers and just wanting to win. I know what it's like. But if you can start utilizing some of those fundamentals that you've been taught in the fundamentals classes, then you're going to be one step ahead. So you will, without question, get something from rolling with a white belt. You will definitely learn something. You will learn something more from rolling with a blue belt, especially a new blue belt who wants to prove he's a blue belt and murder white belts. You're definitely going to learn more there as well. You'll get something from rolling with a purple belt who hopefully should be helping you through, but you know, might want to give you a little bit of a hard time now and again. And you'll learn something from brown belts and black belts, hopefully how to refine certain things or how to do things in the most efficient manner. So you're going to learn something from everybody. But if I had to choose one and you said I can only roll with white belts or I can only roll with colored belts, then without question, you want to be rolling with the colored belts. Now, as a person who's a little bit more mature myself, and I think the person who asked the question was a little bit more mature, just looking at his picture, I couldn't see because there's only a tiny little picture on my phone, but it looked like an older chap. You should, if you're rolling with white belts, you want to try and be rolling with white belts who are of a similar age and size and build, because as we get older, you know how easy it is to get hurt and injured. And only the other day in my class, Tuesday lunchtime, I had a white belt who's 53, 54 maybe, and I had a white belt who was 23, 24, and they were rolling together. And I seen the younger guy, you know, really giving the older guy a hard time. And I said to the younger guy, "How old are you?" And he said 24. And I said, He's 53, 54. So just bring it down a bit. I don't think it's because the younger person is deliberately trying to be a dick. It might be. It wasn't in this case, but it might be in other cases. It certainly wasn't in this case. It's just because they don't know any better and they feel under threat. You will feel under threat no matter what your age. When you're a white belt, you just constantly feel under threat and you feel in danger and you feel like you've got to react to protect yourself. But when you're doing that, when you're 30 years younger than someone and you're much more resilient than the other person, there's only one way that's going to go, and that means the older person is going to probably end up injured and probably going to be ending up out of action for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, maybe give up altogether if it's it happens repeatedly. So be aware of those ages. If you are in your 40s, in your 50s, just don't roll with those 20-year-old white belts if you can help it. And sometimes it's difficult. You might be the oldest person in the class and you might not have anyone else to roll with. But if that's the case, just speak to your coach and try and roll with the more experienced guys, people who are not going to injure you. And like I say, it's not always going to be deliberate. It's probably in most cases, it's never going to be deliberate. With a fellow white belt, it's just the energy that you guys bring with each other. And especially if you're young and you're aggressive and you're full of energy, it's going to be tough. So, know who you're rolling with. Try and stick with people your own age, your own size, your own build. If you are, more mature, and if you can't, then try and roll with people who are more experienced, higher belts. Anyway, that was just my thoughts on that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think you personally get more out of rolling with people who are at the same level as you, or do you get more out of rolling with colour belts? Thanks for watching. If you found it useful, as always, click that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again in the next one.